For you to overcome emotional eating, it's not going to be through talking it out so you can understand or rationalize what your emotions are. And here's why. Are you ready to bring your dream body and health into life, but just can't seem to keep the motivation going? And is it finally time to address the self-sabotage and the unwanted eating behaviors such as binge eating, emotional eating, and nighttime eating that you know are getting in the way of your goals? Do you ever wonder what it would take for you to feel in control of your rituals so that you can stay consistent and see results? Welcome to this week's special Make Peace with Food Minisode on the Fall in Love with Fitness podcast, where you'll learn how to overcome unwanted eating behavior and other self-sabotaging habits by shifting your nervous system so that your body works with you instead of against you. I'm your host, Sherry Shaban, and with each episode, I am honored to be your coach and guide in the journey to make peace with food and find food and body freedom so that struggle with weight is a thing of the past. When you tune in every Thursday on the Fall in Love with Fitness podcast, you'll catch the latest conversation on unwanted eating behaviors and learn how to shift the nervous system, rewire the brain to new patterns, and end the food and body obsession so you finally feel relaxed and no longer confused around food. Now, before we begin, I want to quickly invite you to grab a free copy of my Food Freedom ebook that I have for you at makepeacewithfood.com. And if you find that this conversation resonates with you today, then I also want to invite you to join our free Make Peace with Food Facebook community at myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com, where you can connect with me and my team directly. The links are in the show notes. And of course, if you know somebody who you feel could benefit from these conversations and discussions, make sure to share this podcast with them too. All right, so we're just about to jump into it, but before we do that, I have a super quick announcement. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while and you're ready to take a time out and focus on just you for a whole week, then I want to personally invite you to join me for the Transformation in Paradise Empyrean Retreat in Costa Rica, May 24 to 31, 2025. This is going to be the most transformative week of your life at the breathtaking Osa Peninsula in Costa Rica. Now, this will be a small group experience with exclusive access at the Blue Osa Resort. Imagine waking to the sound of the Costa Rican rainforest musical every morning, starting your day with a yoga practice overlooking the Pacific Ocean, joined in with howler monkeys, daily walks on a private beach that goes on for miles, macaws flying overhead, spa treatment at a 5-star resort, and the best farm-to-table food ever right from the Blue Osa farm. This retreat is designed to reset your nervous system so you stop the patterns of self-sabotage and overwhelm. You reignite your motivation, you release any addictive habits, and open yourself to the health, relationships, and financial abundance you deserve. Intrigued? Curious? Let's book a call to find out if this retreat is the right fit for you. All you have to do is head on over to sherryshaban.com/retreats and you can book a time with me there. Plus, if you rate and review this podcast, giving me a 5-star rating on iTunes, and then send the screenshot to sherry@sherryshaban.com so that I know who you are, you'll receive the voucher to join me as early bird discount and get $400 off of Empyrean. So remember, this group is small and the spots are limited. Let's book a call to see if it's right for you. All right, now let's get into it. I'm so excited about today's topic because when I say this, not a lot of people believe that it's possible. When I say that we can overcome emotional eating in just 7 days, people don't believe that, especially if they've been stuck in this pattern for so many years. And in my 25 years of working with so many women and helping them work on their nutrition, work on their training, and work on their self-care, it's really amazing how many of them are struggling with emotional eating. And I'm going to throw a number out there. And I always wish I'd gone back and done all the statistics to really, really be able to accurately share this. But if I were to guess and estimate based on the experience of speaking to so many women who use food to cope with emotions, whether that is stress, whether that's sadness, whether that's depression, whether that's even boredom or joy, I would say it's something up there around 70%. I would say 7 out of 10 people use food to cope with their emotions. And now today I'm going to talk a little bit about food. And I'm going to also say that I want you to feel free to plug in any other unwanted behavior that you're experiencing. This could be alcohol. This could be marijuana. This could be shopping. This could be sex. This could be gambling. This could be anything that you're noticing that you use to diffuse an emotion. And when I'm going to share with you today that you can do this in 7 days, that you really can overcome emotional eating or learn how to shift your coping mechanisms to something that serves you more in just 7 days, you're going to be floored by what I'm going to share today, because once you know this, you can't unknow it. And no matter how much we talk about why we emotionally eat, or no matter how much we talk about what happened to us, our story that keeps on repeating over and over again, that gives us those feelings of uncertainty, that gives us those feelings of not enoughness, the more that we try to rationalize that through our words, through our conscious thoughts, the more we actually get stuck, because that's not actually going to be the way out. For you to overcome emotional eating, it's not going to be through talking it out so you can understand or rationalize what your emotions are. And here's why. Emotions are experienced in the body. They're experienced in the body, and therefore no amount of trying to understand them intellectually or analytically or try to decipher the patterns through talking about them and re-experiencing the past events that brought you to this place, no amount of doing that is going to help you overcome it. And so what's the way out? The way out is to connect with the body, because the body is the subconscious mind. The body is where all the emotions are trapped. And you've likely heard me say this to you before. Emotions are just waves of energy. It's different frequencies that we experience. We don't actually have good emotions or bad emotions. And once we understand that there's no good or bad emotions, it's just how we feel things. It's like putting on a weighted vest, and this vest is only 5 pounds. That feels very different in my body. I feel very light. Or I put on a weighted vest that is holding 50 pounds of weight, and that feels very, very heavy. And I can tell that it's hard to move, and I can tell that I'm sluggish. And so I want you to imagine that emotions are the same way. And they hit certain areas in the body. Every time we feel or experience certain emotions, certain areas of the body are affected. So anger, for example, anger is an emotion that we experience that actually creates tension in the muscles. Those of us that have a lot of neck pain or back pain or jaw pain, especially if we have TMJ issues, we're holding on to repressed anger. And I call it constipated anger or resentment. And this is what's manifesting in the body. And so imagine what happens when we feel fear, when we feel anxiety, which has a basis of fear. Anytime we feel fear, we sweat, we tense up, we freeze, we have a hard time reacting, we are feeling like the need to escape. And so once we start to feel all this in the body, we start to notice it in the nervous system. We start to notice that our palms are becoming sweaty. We start to notice that we're having a hard time even expanding the chest. And that's really what fear does. It makes us try to get smaller, because the response of the nervous system when we feel fear is to hide, is to somehow try to protect ourselves. And so once again, we understand that, and we understand that this is a pattern, and we can start to see it in the body. We can start to communicate with it in the body in its own language using the subconscious mind you can free yourself in 7 days. And I'm not joking. I see this over and over again. And by the end of our conversation today, I'm going to share with you exactly how to do that. And I have a little surprise to share with you. If you've been on my social media, you've noticed that I have a big announcement I'm making, something I'm really, really excited about. So I'll share with you that story as well today. And by the end of our conversation today, I'm going to invite you to take that opportunity to overcome emotional eating in 7 days if you feel like this is what's keeping you stuck. And if you've been struggling with weight your entire life, and I say this over and over again because my goal is to empower you. My goal is to really give you the knowledge that you are not broken, that you're very fixable. There's nothing actually wrong with the behavior as long as you're going about it the right way. And here's what I mean by that. When we are stuck in patterns of binge eating, when we're stuck in patterns of emotional eating, when we're stuck in these self-sabotaging patterns, we actually tend to overeat. We tend to turn to food to cope with our different emotions, with the different things that are going on in our life, whatever feels the need to maybe escape from, whatever we feel the need to maybe smother with that immense joy, that temporary relief that we get from food. All of that is what's leading to the overeating. It's not actually because you are unable to calculate your macros or you can't follow a plan. You know that that's not the reason. You know the things to do, and you've always known the things to do. You've probably been in this diet roller coaster for a very large period of your life. And again, when you're struggling with weight for a long time, it's not the food and it's not the lack of knowledge in knowing how to eat the right foods that are going to serve and fuel your body. It's really the fact that you use substances to cope with whatever you're going through. And that's why we always sabotage. And here's what I mean by sabotage. You do really well, you're on the wagon, you get the results that you want, you've been eating super, super clean, you're exercising, you're doing all the things, and you get the results. And then all of a sudden, something happens that completely derails you. Something happens that gets in the way where suddenly you can't stay committed, where now you're needing to turn back to food, wondering what's going on. How did this happen? I released 30 pounds. I was doing so great. Why am I back to this behavior? And I can't stop it. And so that's the part that I want you to get curious around. I don't want you to stay in that place of blame and shame and disappointment in self because you get the results and then all of a sudden something happens to bring you right back. You see, that is your thermostat. Your thermostat is where you've set your body to feel safe. And your body feels safe by eating these comfort foods, by knowing that it can turn to food to cope with anything that feels uncomfortable. And that's just something that's been conditioned. It's been conditioned for a long time. And the way that we can actually break these patterns and interrupt these patterns is by understanding that it comes from the body and not the mind. Even though the mind knows the right things to eat, even though the mind knows the things to do to stay active, even though the mind understands that processed foods doesn't really serve us very much, the body still has that need for safety. And food on a very primitive level is safety. And that's why we'll always tend to look for that quick dopamine fix, that feeling of joy, that temporary relief from eating foods that are very high in calories, that are very tasty, that we know that the long-term consequence of eating them isn't exactly the type of health that we want to move towards. And so as we continue to get curious, here's another layer that I want to share with you today. Now, personas are these different entities or these different perspectives, if you will, that we have that we always operate from. And you may have heard about a process called inner child or inner child healing. And all of this really describes that part of you that really is still viewing the world from the perspective of a child. And that's also that part of you that's fun and playful and curious and doesn't really care about anything except just having fun in the moment. And as I share this with you right now, I want you to picture a little child in front of you. And maybe you're a parent yourself, and so maybe you resonate with this, or maybe you work with children. But notice what children want. Their needs are very basic, and their level of understanding is also very basic in some ways. They want to have fun. They don't want to have a lot of responsibilities. They want to feel really good in the moment, and they're easily distracted. They also have a high need just to feel safe, just to feel seen, just to feel understood, to feel that somebody is giving them space, that someone's acknowledging their presence. I mean, I remember my kids when they were little and they would color something, mommy, look what I did, mommy, look what I did. Everything was mommy, look what I did, because that's what kids want. They want to be acknowledged. And so as you can imagine, this little child is still within you. And she's the one that comes out when she's feeling unsafe and needs that comfort and needs that level of safety. And so if you've gone through traumatic events, whether that was sexual or physical or emotional, or if you've endured real food scarcity, or if that little child within you, maybe based on your own childhood experiences, had moments where she felt abandoned or really was truly abandoned, or felt that she wasn't needed or wanted, or felt that she didn't get the attention or the care or the love or the physical touch that she craved for. Well, this is what creates a wound. And it's through this wound, through the perspective of a child, that you as an adult are actually using to cope. You're using food to cope with, because children don't understand fully what emotions are. Like I shared earlier, their needs are very basic. They just need a loving hug sometimes. They just need to feel that everything's okay. They need to feel comforted in the moment. And when that little child never got the opportunity to receive all that, there's this constant level of unsafety. And really, if we look at our lives right now, the way that we operate in our relationship, the way that we operate around money, the way that we operate around our job, even just being able to be maybe a little bit more intentional about some of the things that we do. If we are confrontational, or if we tend to sit in the background, if we are go-getters, or if we tend to kind of be passive and wait for things to happen, if we tend to be vulnerable, or if we tend to kind of keep things to ourselves. If you notice all of that, the way that we operate in this world is a direct reflection of our level of safety. And that level of safety is from the perspective of our inner child. Whatever is the wound from the inner child, well, that's what's coming out today. And so if you feel unloved or undesired in your relationship, that's the inner child that needs the healing. If you feel unsafe when certain events happen in your life and you don't know how to handle them, then there is going to be this need for comfort. And what's the fastest way that we get comfort? Yes, it's through food. Food, remember, equals safety. Food is a direct correlation to safety. It is a direct correlation to comfort. And the reason for that is very primitive. Our nervous system gets triggered into what I call protection mode. And I've shared this with you in Fat Loss 101 last week. I shared this also with you on the podcast and through this group. And I've shared with you that our nervous system is wired in two ways when we talk about the autonomic nervous system. It's wired either to protect you and to seek out survival and to ensure survival, or it's wired to feel safe so that it can rest, it can digest, and it can heal. And we know these two nervous system state as sympathetic or parasympathetic, but if you've been following me for a while, I refer to them as protection mode and safety mode. I've actually coined these terms because so much more happens than just hormonal changes and increase in heart rate and priority to certain organs and areas of the body. The things that actually happen when we are in protection mode, when we are in fight or flight or sympathetic nervous state, is we start to have thoughts of worst case scenarios. We start to have thoughts that make us feel unsafe. And these thoughts give us feelings of stress or anxiety or fear of doubt or disbelief or frustration or depression or worry or shame. All of these emotions come from that nervous system state. And these are all the emotions that if the inner child does not know how to cope with, has never learned how to cope with, well, that inner child is always going to look for safety. And the way that she is going to look for safety is through food. And so I hope that this is starting to make sense. And if this is like, oh my God, what are you sharing with me today, Sherry? Because I've never heard it like this before. Then I'm super excited to hear it, because I want to tell you that once you learn this, you can't unlearn it. Once you understand that the reason why you emotionally eat is not because of discipline, and it's not because you don't know when you're hungry and when you're full. It's really that your nervous system is getting kicked into protection mode. And now, from the perspective of your inner child, you're viewing the world as unsafe. And all you're looking for in this very, very moment is to feel safe. And the one thing that guarantees your safety, that gives you that dopamine hit that feels good, where you can shut the world off for just a moment, is food. That's why it feels so good at the end of the night when you're sitting in front of the TV with your favorite snacks and your blanket. Think about that. Your snacks and your blanket. This is the child in you that's wanting that level of safety. Or maybe even after a very stressful day, that need for a reward. Even needing a reward is an emotional response. It's been a high stress day. I've had to deal with all kinds of things, and now I deserve a reward. And that's my little treat. That's my little reward for having such a hard day. And it's that same reward that you give yourself after you've reached your weight loss goal, or you've achieved whatever it is you're trying to achieve on your diet. I've been so good. I've been eating so clean. I deserve cake. And again, think about that. That's not the adult persona. That is the child persona, needing to feel safe, needing to feel seen, needing to feel rewarded, needing to feel acknowledged. And so how can you heal this inner child? How can you really overcome emotional eating in just 7 days? Well, I think now is the time I'm going to share with you the most exciting news ever. So I kind of have to back up a little bit and share with you that I just came back a month ago from the most epic retreat that I hosted in Greece. And this was a beautiful, beautiful space in Greece. I had reserved it about a year before. I had a beautiful group of about 15 people that were there. And it was just a lovely, gorgeous, yummy, juicy, wonderful, beautiful time where we did yoga in the morning. We woke up to the silence. We woke up to the most amazing sunrise on the Mediterranean. We ate the most delicious food. We had these really powerful workshops where we got to work on our subconscious mind, where we got to work on reprogramming the old story. Because that's the thing, we're always running a story. Whatever we believe about ourselves is just the story, and it's how we're always going to see the world. And that's what these workshops are designed to do, to help you overcome self-sabotage. Some people were self-sabotaging with food, some people with alcohol, some people with cannabis, some people even with their relationship with money, always finding themselves in debt or struggling around money. And so as we reprogram the mind through hypnotherapy sessions, through really understanding how to connect the subconscious mind so that you're experiencing what's trapped in the body, and connecting it with the conscious mind so that it starts to make sense, so that you can bring forward anything that, well, you've been suppressing for so long. This is what we're able to do in these 7 days. And so in these 7 days, people show up because they're ready to really overcome major struggles in their life. They're really ready to leave old patterns behind, whether that old pattern is binge eating or emotional eating, or always finding yourself in debt, or always having the same conflicts in your relationships, or even around your health or your self-commitment. All of these self-sabotaging behaviors are just programs that are installed in the mind. And so in these 7 days, why they're so powerful is because you're there without any coping mechanisms. Now, I just shared with you that inner child, she's turning to food to cope. But when you're in this space, first, it's completely immersive. That means from the moment you wake up to the moment that you go to bed, you are in the energy of transformation. It's integrated and weaved into the yoga. It's integrated and weaved into the conversations that we have at the lunch table and the dinner table. It's weaved throughout the day, and even in the activities that we do. We had so many gorgeous outings. And as we continue to weave in and integrate and weave in and integrate, and you're just there for these 7 days without coping mechanisms, well, the things that you haven't been addressing are going to be addressed. They're going to come out. They're going to surface. And they're going to surface in a safe way. Because what you thought you couldn't handle, the things you thought that you were addicted to, the things that you thought that you'd always struggle with for the rest of your life, they get to surface in a way where now you're looking at them from the outside, understanding and seeing that it's just a pattern. It's just a pattern that's running. And this is what we're doing during these 7 days. We interrupt these patterns. So people who go back home after these 7 days have a very different relationship with money. They've learned different habits throughout the week and different rituals that they then install once they go back home. Habits that change their relationship with food, their relationship with sugar, their relationship with alcohol, their relationship with cannabis. I had somebody who came to the retreat who is no longer drinking. And I had someone else who came to the retreat who decided, I'm no longer using cannabis. It's not just part of my culture anymore. And decided that cannabis was actually getting in the way of a lot of the things in his life. It was just keeping him kind of asleep to a lot of the things that he wanted to surface and bring into his life. I had someone else who went home and decided that she doesn't eat sugar anymore. And so why does this happen? We weren't talking about alcohol and cannabis and sugar all week, by the way. We were just working on the personas. We were working on the inner child. We were healing the parts of us that are still keeping us experiencing the world from the perspective of a child. And so after this beautiful, amazing, super impactful week in Greece, even though I had decided I'm going to put retreats on the side for just a moment, I have other things that I wanted to focus on in 2025, because I got so much feedback and because I had so many requests to host another retreat, I am super excited to share with you. Oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm like jumping on my seat. I'm super excited to share with you that I will be hosting another retreat in Paradise next year. And this is going to be May 24th to 31 in the Blue Osa in Costa Rica. And what's beautiful about this space, I think it's probably my favorite place on earth. And I've traveled a lot. And the reason why this place is so magical, first of all, the resort is amazing. It is gorgeous. We are right on the Pacific Ocean, which, by the way, is just ours. We don't share the space with anyone. And when I host retreats, I rent out the whole place. Why? Because then we don't share it with other guests. It's really just ours. We roam around, we own the place, it's ours. And the beach is also ours. And don't follow what I'm about to say, but it's ours and so private that even if you wanted to skinny dip, you could. And there are no umbrellas or cigarette butts or music or anything like that playing on this beach. It's a virgin, beautiful, untouched piece of nature that you get to experience. And I remember on the last day of our retreat in 2023, when I hosted Transformation in Paradise there in 2023, on the last day, there were literally dolphins coming up to the shore. Like, that is how magical it is. We watch the sunrise every single morning on this beach. And when we start our yoga practices, we are overlooking the beach in the morning. We get to do all of our workshops in the space, and all the food that we get to eat is directly from the Blue Osa farm. They have their own farm. They grow everything. So the eggs are from the farm, all the food is from the farm, and Costa Rican food is so delicious. And it's unbelievably tasty. And I'm so excited to go back and have some more of that, and also to share this experience with you. And so I want to share with you that if you really have self-sabotaging behavior, whether that's around emotional eating, like I shared with you today, if you really want to get to the roots of understanding how to cope with your emotions, so that as soon as you feel these emotions, you don't have to turn to food to unravel them, that you really can just sit in them and learn, first of all, how to understand and interpret these emotions, and then how to release them. And so what happens is these emotions become less and less intense for you, and these patterns start to change. So the pattern is no longer, I feel stressed and anxious, I eat. The pattern now becomes, I feel less stressed and anxious. I can ask my emotions what they're trying to tell me. I can start to change the correlation with that emotion and a coping mechanism. And I now no longer turn to food to cope. And as a result, over time, my body is naturally releasing weight. My body is naturally releasing all that it's been holding on to, not just in physical energy, as we call it, body fat, but also in emotional energy, so that your relationship with yourself also changes. And again, if you're there to really unravel what's behind this constant struggle, maybe with the business you're wanting to launch, what's this constant struggle with your relationship? What about your relationship with yourself or your relationship with someone else that you know? What is standing in the way from you achieving all the things that you want in your life? And we will always get to the root of the fears. There are fears that are blocking you from really expressing your true self in this world, from you really being who you're always meant to be. And so that's what we call self-sabotage. You know you want to do something, yet you always make that choice that brings you right back or blocks you from doing it. And so if you want to overcome self-sabotage so that you step into abundant health and abundant, beautiful, loving relationships and abundance around your finances, then this is the week for you. And so today I'm going to share with you that you can now register for early bird for Transformation in Paradise in Costa Rica with me next year, the 24th of May to the 31st of May, one full amazing week in this gorgeous piece of paradise where you're going to overcome self-sabotaging behavior. And if you're experiencing emotional eating in 7 days, you're going to release that. You'll no longer be an emotional eater. You'll no longer be the person who's needing to turn to food to cope with. And so if that feels like this could be for you, if you have more questions, today I just want to invite you to get on a call with me. I want you to get on a retreat info session call. And I'm going to also qualify if you are the right fit or not, because I do turn people away from retreats. Like I shared with you, I'm so excited about these beautiful opportunities to hold space for a very, very strong purpose. And so it's really important that the energy is aligned and who's there is aligned, and that it just ends up being the right fit for everyone. And so I've turned some people away for Greece, like I just shared with you, and also for Costa Rica. And again, it's really, if I feel like it's not the right environment, it's not the right environment. And so during our 30 minutes together on this info session, I'll ask you a bunch of questions. I want to know what your goals are. I want to understand where you're self-sabotaging in your life. I want to get to know you a little bit more. And then we'll look at how this retreat could be a fit for you, if it is. And then we'll also talk about all the logistics. If you have questions about how to get there, if you have questions about how to break it up so it makes sense financially, any of those questions, I'm super happy to serve you and to share this information. So make sure that you go ahead and grab a spot. You'll see it right now. You'll see it in the little chat. And have you been to Costa Rica? I'm super curious. Have you gone? Is this a place that you've wanted to explore and to travel to? And I'll tell you again, it's one of my most favorite places on the planet, because it's just, if you're unaware, it's just this magical biodiverse place that holds actually the world's greatest biodiversity in plants and in animals. You're going to wake up to the sound of howler monkeys. We're going to be doing yoga in the morning with monkeys, and monkeys really come to the trees as we're having lunch, and you get to just be in this magical place where you're interacting with nature. You're going to have walks on the beach with the macaws, and macaws are kind of like parrot looking beautiful birds, and they're in their natural habitat. And so you get to experience that and see the sloths in the tree. That's just part of just being in Costa Rica. And I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, because again, this is my favorite place, I believe, on the planet. And I would love for you to give yourself that gift. Give yourself at least that gift of curiosity. Well, is this right for me? What's this retreat all about? And so again, grab a spot. If you can't find a spot that actually works for you, you can DM me, you can email me, Sherry@SherryShaban.com. Let me know, Sherry, none of the spots on the calendar work for you, and let's see what we can do to set up something that does work for you. So with that, I wish you a beautiful rest of your day, and my one takeaway that I want for you today is Stop blaming yourself and stop feeling frustrated. Stop being upset with that child, that inner child that's just looking for safety, that's just looking for love and affection and just to feel good in the moment. And instead, give yourself some grace. Be more gentle and kind to yourself. Allow yourself to really explore what is it that that child needs and start to see that pattern run, because once you see it and I share with you the tools around how to heal that inner child, the pattern ends and you can create your own pattern that's empowering, that's bringing you to the places that you want to go, that's giving you the results that you want. And so it really can happen that quickly. And I see it all the time. We suffer for years and years and years. We struggle. But the moment you find the solution, that's it. You found the solution. And it doesn't need to take years for you to find the solution, just as long as it's the right one. If you continue to diet and if you continue to try to control your food and use discipline, well, I don't have to tell you. I don't have to tell you that you're just going to keep getting the same result. And so there's another way, and I would love to hold space for you so that you do leave this behind and it's no longer part of who you are. So I wish you a beautiful rest of your day, and I will see you on the info session. Thank you for listening to this week's Make Peace with Food Minisode on the Fall in Love with Fitness podcast. If this has resonated with you today, I want to invite you to subscribe to the show so you never miss a beat. And if you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, then please share this episode with them. Let's work together to help as many people as possible make peace with food and fall in love with fitness. And by the way, I need to mention that if you rate and review this podcast on iTunes and send over the screenshot to Sherry at sherryshaban.com, you'll receive a $500 voucher to join me at one of my upcoming retreats or to use it in our Make Peace with Food coaching program. And don't forget to visit myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com to join the free Facebook group for more resources. And remember, athlete, you are an inspiration. I cannot wait to hear your story.